All right, we are live at Sparks Orthopedics and Sports Medicine in Rainbow City, Alabama, with Dr. D. Eric Sparks once again. These segments, as always, has been fantastic. He's educated Reggie and myself a whole lot. Actually, me and Reggie will catch ourselves during the week talking about the conversations we have on here.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But once again, this one is something that I'm totally clueless on. I've heard it 100 times, but I want to find out the real definition of it, and those are stingers. What is a stinger? What causes a stinger? What's the difference in that and something that could be possibly major? And we're all about to find out. So I'm going to kick it over to Dr. D. Eric Sparks at this time.
All right, so we're talking about stingers. Some people call them burners. They're an injury to the nerves as they run out to the arm. So in this case, we're talking about a group of nerves. After it comes out of the neck, they go into an area where they're called the brachial plexus, and it's just below the collarbone. And those nerves get an injury to them, which leads to one arm having numbness and weakness. Okay? The injury itself happens through one of three different mechanisms. So it's either a stretch injury, which is probably the most common, where typically in football we see the neck and the shoulder getting separated or stretched. That puts a stretch moment to the nerves, and that injury causes those symptoms, that weakness and that numbness. It can also come in football from a direct hit, because in this soft anterior triangle just behind the collarbone, the nerves can take a direct hit. And then it can come from compression, where your head actually gets pushed against your shoulder really hard, and that compression puts pressure on the nerves, okay? And again, the symptoms are one-sided weakness and numbness. Now, these are really underreported injuries, so we don't have great numbers as far as how many of them happen in a year. There's a couple of good studies out there that got done. One was in the Canadian Football League, where at the end of a season, they took everybody and they just sent out a questionnaire and they said, okay, how many of you all experienced a stinger or a burner this year? And 26% of their athletes experienced a stinger or a burner that year, okay? Then the collegiate level in the United States, they did the same kind of thing, trying to decide how many of them were happening. And one of the questions that they asked was how many people in college football had a stinger or a burner that they did not report to medical staff. Because this is really the issue. A lot of people or athletes are getting them and they're just not reported to the medical staff because it's either considered commonplace or because it resolves really quickly. By the time they're off the field, it's already resolved, and so they don't report it. And 70% of the athletes that reported they had one said they did not tell the training staff about it. So 70% of the athletes, so let's say the number was about the same, about 28% of their athletes had burners or stingers, but 70% of them said they did not report those to the medical staff.
That would be the highest number, percentage-wise number of injuries we have talked about on the show, if those numbers are accurate.
Right, so very, very common, very, very common.
Wow.
Yep. So, and so stingers and burners, you know, you have those symptoms. This is, you see people run off with that dead arm look, okay? You're not sure whether they have a shoulder dislocation or they got something going on, but obviously there's something going on with that arm, right? Because they're running off to the side like that. They're over on the sideline, and really, you know, the initial evaluation is really just about what their symptoms are, and they're going to have weakness and then that numbness, and it's gonna persist. That weakness and numbness persist for a varying amount of time. Okay, so you know, when to let an athlete go back on the field, okay, or when to let them participate, really is based on how many stingers or burners they had, and are their symptoms resolved. So first of all, athletes should not go back out and participate until the symptoms are resolved, right? So what we like to see is we want them to have full range of motion back in their shoulder and elbow and wrist and have all their strength, okay? And when they have that, then they can return to play.
How long does that typically take for them to get those symptoms?
It is very variable, but around most of them, around 75% of them are going to resolve quickly within the first 5 minutes or so. Okay?
Oh, okay.
So most of them are resolving very quickly. There are very few of them that go on to prolonged symptoms.
Okay.
And then we care about also the number of stinger burners you have during that game. Okay, so usually we say for the first one you can return to play that day, that night, as long as you have full range of motion and your strength is back.
Right.
If you get a second one in that same game, you need to consider holding out for the rest of the game. Okay. And then if you get a third one, now you really need to consider having other studies done. Okay, so for a single burner or stinger, not everybody's rushing off to the doctor to have x-rays taken and all that kind of stuff, right? We're just, you get better, you go back out on the field and play.
Okay.
But if you start having multiple stingers and burners, then you need to be evaluated. And mainly what's getting evaluated in that is really your cervical spine, right? We're checking your neck out to make sure that there's not some reason why you're having these repeated injuries to the nerves. And typically what we're looking at is really the space that is in your neck, the space that's available for your spinal cord, the space that's available for those nerve roots as they come out, and making sure that that's adequate, that you're not at risk for something worse like having a spinal cord injury or something like that. Okay.
Have you seen that before, personally?
So I have seen personally something that's called transient quadriparesis, which is where your spinal cord gets hit and all your limbs go numb and dead, but it goes away pretty quickly. Thank God, I've not been in a situation where I've seen someone hurt their cervical spine that did not come back. Thank goodness.
We've seen it in college football a few times. Peanut gallery.
I've got a question. Did you happen to see Dak Prescott's injury?
I did not.
That was pretty gruesome.
That's pretty bad. I was going to ask you kind of.
Yeah, that's a pretty hot topic right now.
Yeah, it's all.
His ankle basically
It was,
completely sideways, and
Ooh.
you could tell it was
terrible. Yeah.
and Alex Smith returned to play last night, and they said that he had a life-threatening leg injury.
Yeah, they were talking about possibly having to amputate his leg one time.
What? Have you heard anything about that? Do you know what made that a life-threatening injury? Was it?
No, I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Same thing Joe Theismann had.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty much the Theismann type injury.
Yeah.
What
So,
would take that from just a break to life-threatening?
in the case of Joe Theismann and some other people who've had those type of tibia fractures, when they have come out of the skin like that, they're an open fracture at that point, and then the risk of infection goes up. The risk of the bone itself not healing, even when you put it back together, goes way up. And so, I think it was Prothro at the University of Alabama had just multiple surgeries because he got tackled. He broke his leg like that, basically stuck it in the dirt. He got infection. He had multiple surgeries to try to clear that. And so it's the complications, I think, more from that side, from the infection side, that make it life-threatening or limb-threatening even, than it is the break itself.
Yeah.
So
His looks similar to Prothro's.
Did it?
Real similar, yeah.
He's out for 4 to 6 months right now.
so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think minimum probably.
Those are terrible injuries. Terrible injuries.
I got a question about stingers. Is there a possibility, like you said, if you keep recurring injury over and over, same thing, that there is something wrong in there and you could lose your career?
So, yes, and that's why we say after a third one, you need to have some sort of workup done. Now,
So the people that's listening, that's I'm the tough guy, I'm just going to keep rolling out there, you're literally risking a permanent injury to your body if you do not.
you are, yes.
Okay.
So if
Okay,
you're going to
tough guy.
ask the medical professional, again, these are things that are not being reported a lot of times, right? So there are certainly people out there, athletes out there who have had more than 3 stingers who are still playing who are known by coaching staff, known by other players. He gets one every game, right? I mean, that's every time he tackles, he's getting one. Well, those are the people who need to be worked up, because those are the people who are going to have something. Even if they don't, hopefully they go through their workup and everything looks good and there's no risk to their spinal cord and they're fine. There are some apparatuses that we can use to try to prevent you from having a stinger or a burner. These are like the cowboy collar, okay? It's probably, looks a lot better now than it did back in Reggie's day when it was just a foam roll, a flesh-colored foam roll around the pad.
That's the Rupert Foster pad, right?
Yes, that's right. So the whole idea is that your helmet's gonna catch on that. It's gonna limit the motion of your neck and that separation of your neck either away from or towards that side, and hopefully thereby prevent you from having so many stingers or burners.
Okay.
So it ain't all about toughing it out all the time.
That is correct.
Toughing it out's a good thing, but there is a point where you gotta.
I've heard 3 coaches this year stress, if you have injuries, please let us know, because it is something that's underreported.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and dude, toughing it out is great, and I'm sure every coach wants that, but you need to let somebody know. Everybody's listening.
Yeah, and if you're going to tough it out, there's nothing you can
Even
do.
during the game, if like
Yeah,
you get 3 in
right.
the game,
Yeah.
It's better.
just let it be known.
Yeah.
Because he may say, "Hey, if 3 of those, you don't need to go rolling back in there, man."
No.
That's correct.
It makes sense.
So
It does.
So potentially, if those numbers were true, this is the highest percentage-wise injury that we have talked about,
Yeah.
that is correct.
especially with the non. So let's
And so it's probably higher than that just because they're so underreported. And,
100%.
so many of them resolve so quickly. It's why you see somebody run off and their arms down and then the next play they're back in, right? Because that thing resolves that quickly a lot of times.
Is there anything, heat, ice, anything you can do to treat it, or is it just time?
It is just time and letting that nerve recover. So nerves are a little different than some of the muscular injuries or sprains to ligaments and things that we've talked about. They don't respond as well to the simple things like rest, ice, that kind of thing. So
what is the difference? Is it the same nerve system like when you hit your elbow and it
Funny
goes
bone.
numb?
So
Is it
your
the same
funny
nerve
bone, is actually a nerve called the ulnar nerve. It runs behind your elbow right here. And when you hit it against something, that's the same feeling that you're getting out of a stinger or burner, except that you don't necessarily feel the weakness so much when you hit your funny bone. You feel all that numbness, but you don't feel as much weakness. With a stinger or burner, you're going to get a lot of weakness, usually up here in your shoulder and your deltoid. So,
I gotcha.
yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Anybody else? I learned a lot again.
I know. I know.
Yeah, speaker is the go-to for when I'm watching the game with, kids or my wife, and they'll say, "What's wrong with it?" I'm like, "That's just finger."
Yeah, you hear that. I mean,
I didn't know what it was. Yeah.
it's just a thing. It'll be all
Everybody's got
right.
a stinger. I'm waiting for somebody to look at you. What's a stinger, dude? Technically, I don't know. I'll find out next Monday.
Now we know.
Now we know.
Now we
we
know.
It's like the more you know.
But I guess that's it for this segment. That was a fantastic segment.
was.
Looking forward to it. And as always, we will be back. Same bat time, same bat channel. God willing, and the creek band all right. We are out. All right, our next game brings us into the Ashville Bulldogs, and my favorite guy of them all, man, Single Wing Monroe's in the house tonight. Coach, coming off a rough win, rough loss, but before we get into that, tell us who you got with us tonight.
Closest to me, I got sophomore outside linebacker Travis Smith, and the furthest to my right, Clay Keller, our senior middle linebacker.
Pretty solid haircuts on these two guys. Don't overlook these two haircuts, fellas.
The flow's strong in Asheville.
I love it. Coach, you knew going in that Dora game, they had a ton of athletes. It was going to be a tremendous challenge for you. And you guys were neck and neck till right there at the end. Take us back to last Friday in that game.
Yeah, I thought we competed. Thought we just didn't overcome some mental miscues we had in the game. we talk about it every week, and or I talk about it every week with our team. But it's something that rarely gets talked about in football. Is field position was a huge factor, especially in the first half. Their 2 touchdown drives started on our side of the field. Their first touchdown started on our 39, and then the second touchdown started on the 16. So field position was huge in the first half. But our kids responded. We were able to punch one in before halftime, down 14-7 at the half. I think as the game went on, it was kind of nip and tuck for a little while. We took the ball to start the second half, went down the field, had a nice drive going. We didn't convert a 4th down on their 30. They get back, score, then we come right back, score, and so it was a pretty tight ball game. Till, like you said, right there at the end, they punched one in with about 20 seconds left.
And you two guys, we start right here. All season, it seems like you guys have improved. I know Coach may vary about some weeks, but from the start of the season till now, and especially I noticed you guys stuck out. I watched you live at the Etowah game. There were some pads popping. We love to hear it. But you guys have steadily improved each year. Can you talk about your progressions from week 0 to now?
At first, we really didn't have that much. But as we kept going on, and as we learned as a team how to get closer and how to perform a lot better, knowing each other more than what we did at the beginning, it kind of helped us go farther and farther as what we needed to do to get better and stay that way, and keep going forward and win more games, and because that's what we're just trying to do, is we're trying to set that foundation so we can build up and
Absolutely, no doubt.
Get better.
You being a sophomore, man, what's it like starting as a sophomore?
It's pretty awesome.
Because that's not everybody gets to start as a sophomore.
No, but it feels really good to be a part to start as a Ashville Bulldog.
How have you learned from some of the seniors that's played up above you that you've watched play before you?
As a freshman, I didn't really start much, and then I just watched them, and I started the last few games, and they helped me gone through it.
100%. That's awesome.
What he said reminded me of Friday Night Lights. And the line that I love is, in the championship game, he tells them, find each other.
Yeah.
Because you need each other.
That's right. Yeah.
I love that.
That's the second half speech with him.
Mm-hmm.
And Coach, for you to watch your team kind of progress, and I know football is not always about wins and losses, but you've actually got a chance to do something that's very special if you can take care of business these next 2 games moving forward. Talk about your team in general since week 0 to where we're at now.
Obviously we've improved. The biggest thing is, it's so cliche to say, but improve week to week. And I think we've done that. We've gotten better week to week. We've had some adversity this season, but it hasn't stopped our progression. But a lot of that has contributed to the guys I brought with me. Clay's a guy. He's our bell cow defensively. I know I can count on him. Clay's a very intelligent young man, and he gets us lined up, and he plays with a lot of effort and a lot of intensity. Travis, the same way. Travis is very coachable, and he gets after it every play. I don't have to worry about these 2 guys giving great effort, and as a coach, that makes things really easy on you. But like Clay said, and it tells me he's listening a little bit. His senior class is setting the foundation for hopefully the years to come in Asheville.
Absolutely. We've all noticed that you guys progressing as a team in general, especially the defense. Those guys, and now your offense. I think you found y'all's identity, which is right at them. I love it. He gets me fired up, dude. I was watching their highlights the other night, getting fired up watching it. But now he threw some dimes the other night too, though. But you 2 guys moving forward, and I'll let each one of you guys answer this. Give me some personal goals moving forward to the rest of this season. What you kind of want to get out of this season?
Well, for one thing that I want to know or one thing I want to do is teach the people below me that are coming up things that might help them, like a lot of seniors before me did.
Right.
And I want to look back and be able to say, well, that's the team, that came back and they finished.
Mm-hmm.
And for these next 3 games that are coming up, that's what we're planning on doing, is we're going to go out there and we're going to finish.
Absolutely.
And hopefully we're going to finish with an even record or a winning record, hopefully.
Absolutely.
But I mean, I believe we can do it, and I believe in my men that we can do it. It's just the point of going out there and getting it done.
Absolutely.
That's all you can pretty much say.
Same question for you. What do you want to look to do for the rest of the season personally?
Well, every JV game, some people like ask me the positions I play. They always ask me like what to do and all that, and I tell them like what to do and like I show them and all that, and
You're already teaching.
yeah.
I like it, man. He's leading by example too. Coach says you get after it. I'm gonna take his word on that. Coach, we appreciate having you guys in. Hansville coming up. What have you seen from them that's kind of stuck out to you?
Well, they're really multiple. They run a lot of different sets offensively. They got some good players. They got a really dangerous player at number 3. I believe his name is Diamond. I can't remember his last
Diamond
name.
in the rough.
Yeah, he's a really good player. Their quarterback's a competitor. They don't have a lot of numbers, but they've shown that they can be a thorn in people's side for sure. I think Coach McCain does a good job with his team, and I mean it's definitely a game we can't afford to overlook.
Absolutely. One game at a time.
That's right.
Hey, Rome wasn't built in a day, but it was built with the first brick.
That's right.
Coach, we're going to shut this one down. Appreciate you guys coming in, and we're going to move on to our next. All right, our next game brings us into the Etowah Blue Devils, who coming off a 40-0 victory last week over Hansville and about to go into an off week. But before we do that, I want to bring in, I have a very special guest here with me. Coach Locke from the Etowah Blue Devils is the head coach, first-year head coach of the Etowah Blue Devils, who has his Blue Devils undefeated in the region right now, rolling on and coming off a 40-0 victory last week. Coach, I knew coming into the season you guys were going to be really, really good defensively, and I knew it was going to take a little time to get that offense rolling because of the circumstances at the start of the season. But talk about where your team is at this point in the season before we start diving into this Hansville game, kind of what your progressions from week 0 to now.
Well, there's been a huge amount of progression from week 0, with the quarterback situation being what it was going into August and going into our first game against Gadsden City. Trace Thompson had never taken a snap at any high school level, whether it be varsity or JV, a quarterback, until he played Gadsden City. And that was a tough situation for him to be thrown into. I'm really proud of his progression. I'm proud of the progression of our offense overall to now. It's slow, it's methodical, but that's the way it's going to be. We've made progressions in the passing game. Obviously, we know what Trent Davis can do in the backfield. Our offensive line has played really well, in my mind, overall this year. I think our skilled players, we know what Martavius Davis can do. We know what Ollie Finch can do when they get the ball in their hands. It's just being able to get the ball in their hands, and that's where Trace has made a lot of improvement in my mind, along with some other players. This past game against Ashville, we were able to have quite a few players step up and show that they have the capability of playing. Brevin Knight, Andrew Pierce, Khalil Hughley, Stephen Jones. Some younger guys that we know now can probably help us out a little bit on Friday night.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of new faces there, but it seems to me though, every time you think of Etowah football, it's blue collar, hard nosed defense and running the football, which those are two things you can do.
Well, we're fortunate that our defensive staff does a great job. Philip Pierce, Matthew Bone, Randy Dupree, Brandon Booker. They do a great job every week of getting those guys ready to play. And, we're fortunate that we have a good bit of speed on the back end. And we've got some really hard-nosed, tough kids in the box, both the defensive line and the linebacker spots. So, one thing about Etowah is there's some kids that don't mind hitting you. That's one thing I've noticed since I've been here.
Yes, sir. That is one thing I can guarantee you. Especially, somebody like Toby Camp, Freeman, Dobbs. You got them at every level.
Trevor Gladden, Nathan Foster, Jacob Sanford. The list goes on. All Jalen Billingsley, Bennett Nance. All those guys.
Trevor was in last week, and he said a lot of people look at him and they'll say, "What position you play?" And they say linebacker, and they all kind of snub it, if they don't know him. But if you know him,
I did that too, Mike, last year before I saw him play.
and then you're like, "Wow,
Yeah.
this dude will light your world up." Now, last week you coming off a very good victory, 40-0, and then to get a shutout like that at this point in the season, fantastic. Heading into this off week, talk a little bit about that game. Then I want to ask you some things about your off week.
Well, it was a game that was very important to us. It's tough sometimes getting these young kids to understand how important a game like Asheville is. Asheville had not had a very good record, but had a team that played really hard, I thought. And but the fact that it was a region game made it tremendously important for us to go out and play well. Game started off. They actually won the toss, decided to receive, so we kick off to them. Our defense gets a turnover on the first series. Ethan Foster causes a fumble.
That dude's a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, he is. He moves around good. He's very active. From there, we missed a couple of passes early in the drive, and then hand the ball to Trent a couple of times. He got down. Well, one time he broke a play down to get a first down, and then we were able to hit Ollie Finch on a quick screen pass to score the first touchdown. Then came out the next drive. Defense got another stop. We went out the next drive, hit Ollie on a long ball.
He's pretty dangerous.
He is dangerous. Nana had a long run, had like a 90-some-odd yard speed sweep that he took that got called back because of holding, but he ended up having some really good carries. Trent had, I think, 6 carries. He had over 100 yards rushing. So it was one of those deals where everything was clicking for us. I thought Trace threw some really good balls early, had a few drops that we need to address and correct. But outside of that, we were able to get a lot of players in. I think most of the kids on the team, if not all the kids that dressed out, were able to play a good bit. And that's a good thing when you're able to get those young guys in.
Heading into this off week, give me a couple of things that you want to have a point of emphasis on your offense and a couple on your defense.
Well, the first thing is to get healthy. Number one, we actually went into this past game with 3 starters down. We specifically held them out so that we could have a chance to get them healthy. Offensively, I want us to continue to improve as we have been. Hopefully, we can expand the playbook a little bit more. Defensively, we need to get back to some fundamentals and basics. Make sure that we go back to the fundamentals. In every off week that you have, you want to reemphasize the basics. You want to go back to the fundamentals: blocking, tackling, ball security, being smart with the football. The truly basic things that help you be a good football team. The X's and O's, schemes, all that's well and great, but the bottom line is at the end of the day, you have to be really good at the fundamentals to be a good football team and to have a chance to make any type of playoff run. So we want to make sure that we do that.
That makes a lot of sense. And Coach, to finish out, I think once you come out of the open week, you have 2 more games, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. What do you want to see from your bunch coming out of that off week? I know, obviously, like you said, you want to turn inward and get a lot of the internal basic football things looked at and healthy, but what do you want to see down the stretch?
Well, first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you're in the best position possible to make a playoff run. For us, we know that we're in the playoffs, but it's still a little bit up in the air as to where our seating is. So this door game coming out of this open week is going to be critical for us to go out and perform well against a very good athletic door team to have a chance to win the region. If we can win the region, we solidify ourselves as the first seed. That's huge in terms of your matchups and where you fit going down the line, and hopefully future rounds. We don't ever want to look back past anybody, but coming out playing well in that door game to hopefully give us a chance to compete for the region championship, which is the most important part, is seeding in the playoffs, and then getting ready to go into that Southside game. Etowah and Southside is a huge rivalry. I didn't realize just how big it was until I was here last year. Funny story. So last year, myself and Kendra Cook, we were setting up our end zone camera. before the game, and Mr. Jeff Colgrove, our superintendent, comes walking by. And I made the comment to him, I said, I really didn't realize how big of a rivalry game this was, because it's my first year being here. And he looks at me and says, well, we better win. I'm like, okay. So, that was, that kind of let you know real quick, this is a big game. So,
And they jumped out fast and furious last year earlier, I remember.
They did. They called us on, and we had a few coverage bust, and they exploited it, and they hit the wheel right out of the backfield a couple of times, I believe. And offensively, they came out in front that we had not seen all year, so we stumbled a little bit early, and they jumped out on us pretty good. But I would like to see us go out and compete well against Dora, and obviously we need to compete against Southside. You want to have a good taste in your mouth when you're going into the playoffs. You don't want to be coming out of the playoffs in any type of a lull or anything like that. You want to be rolling. That's the time of the year where you need to be clicking on all cylinders.
100%. Coach, I appreciate you coming and sitting in with us. It's always an honor to have you in, and I know you're a busy man, so I won't hold you up, but it's been a pleasure having you in, and looking forward to having you on some other time.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank y'all for what y'all do and the exposure you give our kids, and it's always good to come see you guys.
All right, thank you. All right, we are here with, on the Jarvis Rawls Ronnie Watkins Ford hotline with Coach Danny Horn of the Central Clay Vols. And Coach Horn, nice to have you on the show.
Nice to be here.
Coach, we noticed you wrapped up the region last week in a big win versus Hopeville. That was a team that only had one loss coming in. How huge is that for you to get that heading into this off week?
Well, it takes a little pressure off. Unfortunately, Tallahassee had to cancel last week and this week, and that's what actually gave us an opportunity if we won to win out. And we played fairly well. It was rain. The field's in pretty good shape, but it rained about the whole game. But we finally got a running game going. I've been a little disappointed the last couple of games with our running game, and so we finally got that going. We didn't throw the ball that much, but the conditions kind of limited what we could do in that aspect. But looking back, I probably should have done a little bit more. But we was able to get a win at their place. I guess a good thing. They were like 5-1 or 6-1, and really the loss they had, Beauregard, was basically Beauregard scored 2 touchdowns in the last 5 minutes to beat them. So they had them 12-0 and ended up getting beat. But we played fairly well and pleased to wrap up the region championship.
I don't think nobody would ever question the quality of the football field down there at Central Clay. I heard the guy that keeps it up is pretty good at it.
Well, luckily we played at Hopeful. So if we played at our place, it'd probably been a little bit muddy. But it rained, Friday, all day Friday here. But when we got up there, it really hadn't rained up until about the time we got there, from about 5 o'clock on to about 9 it rained. But at our place, it rained pretty much from 10 o'clock Friday morning. So we messed it up. But yeah, we try to keep it up best we can. That's a job on that field.
Hey, Coach, talk about your team in general, the progressions they made from that Chilton County game, the start of the season, to where they're at now, and your overall view of the team.
Well, I think, offensively, it's getting a little better, which you would expect. Usually, it's been my experience that as the season goes on, usually the offensive line is the one that probably has the best chance of improvement because they work beside each other, every day. And we've gotten a little bit better there, and we need to get a little bit better still. But, we had we had 4 new starters this year, and they're not really old. most of them are juniors and seniors, but they just hadn't had the experience. And we've gotten a little bit better there. And, we've got a couple of receivers I think's gotten better. And, Boyd, he's been, constant all through his career, basically. And so, offensively, we're scoring some points. We missed some opportunities the other night, and I was a little disappointed in our red zone offense. Usually we've been really good in that. And the other night, I think we got stopped 2 or 3 times, inside the 15-yard line. And but that's going to happen sometimes. Their defensive line and the offensive line both were good. And but we've been pretty consistent for the most part on offense. And defense, we struggle some, and sometimes we're just being inconsistent on defense. And I've always said, if you're good on defense, you got a chance in every game. And we've been good on some games, and some games, not so good. So we got a couple of things we got to work on there. And we got, this week we're open. I gave them today off, and we're going to practice Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and work on some things that maybe we need to get better on. And, this is the time of year that you need to be playing your best, and we talked about that. And hopefully these last 2 games, we play a very good talented team, and we play an undefeated Hanley team, and then the playoffs. So, I hope that this is the time of year you need to be reaching your peak, going into the playoffs.
Coach, that was my next question was how do you go about treating the off week? But you went ahead and answered that. As far as practice goes during an off week, is that something, do you look forward to the next game, or do you practice on blocking, tackling, and execution?
Well, this is, I think, I've had a couple open weeks throughout my career, not many, but tomorrow I think we're just going to practice on ourselves, and then Wednesday, Thursday, we'll start game planning a little bit for Tallahassee. They run that Notre Dame box, which is something you don't see every day, and we're going to work on that a little bit. But tomorrow it's just going to be basically fundamentals, trying to get better there, and we're going to want to. We may move some people around and see how they, can play other positions, and but the thing that we need to do is we need a little rest too, because we've been playing for 8 straight weeks, and we got a couple that's by this time obviously everybody's got nicks and bruises, but Elijah, our tailback, he got a little hip problems, and it affected him a little bit. He didn't play any defense last week, and really didn't play a whole lot of offense, just here and there. And so we got to get him well, and all right, Norton Silas, he's been out since about the 3rd game with a high ankle sprain. I don't know if you know much about high ankle sprains, but I knew when he had that, he'd be out for a couple of weeks, and he's really not 100%. So hopefully this week will help him get well, and some others, just little nicks and bruises. And it's as a coach, you got to decide what you want to do. But if you got open week, do you want to arrest them, or do you want to work on your fundamentals, or do you want to start working on the next team? And we're going to try to do a little bit of everything. We're going to try to rest them and try to work on ourselves, basically, and then later on during the week, go over some things that our next opponent, which is Tallahassee, will be doing. So hopefully we can accomplish all 3 this week.
Coach, one last thing before I let you go. I noticed last year, heading into the playoffs, you moved some guys around, like J.D. McNeely being one of them. got him some looks at tailback and stuff like that. That kind of helped you spearhead you through that championship run. Will you be experimenting any in this off week, moving guys around like that?
Well, we will. I mean, just about everybody goes. I mean, if they play offense, they usually go to a defensive group. And, like Quentin Knight last year, he'd been going to outside linebackers from day one. He just had never played it during the game. And then, we basically moved him the first game in the playoffs to the outside linebacker. And that helped us. And, JD, of course, he's been running in a wishbone a bit. And what you don't remember about JD is he broke his foot during the summer camp, and it took him a couple of games to kind of get his feet up under him. And then about that fourth, fifth game, when he got an injury, you kind of worried about it, and it took him a couple of games there to realize that he was fully recovered. And so, we'll be looking at some folks. I mean, we don't have people like that we can put in there, but we'll be looking at some of the young folks. Hopefully, that can, or some that play on offense that may help us, on defense or vice versa. Because come playoff time, it's a one-game season, and that's the way we treat it. And you need to have your best players out there, and sometimes that you have to make some adjustments to get the best 11 out there. And with us, with the depth problems that we have, a lot of times, we'll be playing, 4 or 5 people both ways. And of course, we are basically doing that now. And so we'll look at some people at, little different positions and see if we can improve ourselves with it.
All right. Coach, I really appreciate you coming on, taking time to come on with us. It means the world to us for you to take time out of your day. I know you're a busy man, and we're looking forward to talking to you again, Coach.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. On to our next. All right, our next game is going to bring us into the Oxford Yellow Jackets, who's coming off a 42-14 win last week versus former coach Lee Osmond and the Arab Arabian Nights. This game was pretty close, pretty nip and tuck. Josh Abercrombie of Average Joe's said it was going to be a 4-quarter game, and he was pretty close.
It was a 4-quarter game up until halftime. Third quarter it was 2.
Third quarter they were still battling away. I mean, Lee
I said
Osmond,
it would be a 2-possession game.
he did.
Yeah.
Give him credit for that. He was wrong.
Of course, Oxford on those teams, a 2-possession against them is like a 3 points by somebody else.
If you hold Oxford, if Oxford's got their starters in the fourth quarter, you're a good football team.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care what classification you're in. Period. They scored. Was it COC? I think broke a big run that got them to score that last one. It was 42-14. But I mean that was Arab. Give them props, big time props on that one. But this week, Kevin, they're playing your buddies. Kevin's a big Springville fan, so Kevin, talk about that game coming up for Oxford.
I like Colonoscopy more. I like Springville. Of course, you end up having the same result, but anyway. All seriousness, Springville's a county rival, and we all, in Springville, they kind of they're in a rough situation because they're one of the smallest 6A schools in the state. I think they lack 4 or 5 students being a 5A. And they got to go all the way over to Oxford to be the sacrificial lamb. And I think Oxford can win the region by beating them Friday night, if I'm not mistaken.
Outright, I believe so.
It's just, I just would not want to be on that Springville Tiger team.
Yeah.
Now Springville. Now I'll say this about Springville: they the last 2 or 3 years they've had about 85 players, which surprisingly for they've been a 4 or 5A and then now 6A. They've got the numbers to go toe to toe with Oxford, but they don't. You know, they may have the toes, but they don't have the Joes.
Got a small correction for you. Oxford has to travel to Fort Payne for the region championship if they win Friday night, and that'll be next week.
Oh, okay.
So that'll be a.
Yeah, I forgot. See, I forgot about.
It's 4-0 still.
Yeah.
In region play?
Yes, Fort Payne is still undefeated in region play, so.
Yeah, that's right, because they beat Southside. That's right.
Yep.
So that's going to be interesting. So Oxford will be all motivated because they know they can't beat Fort Payne to win the region until they beat Springville. And it's just
One
like
game at a time.
climbing the mountain. So
Coach Cochran and his squad is very, very stingy. I think it's going to be very tough for Springville to move the football on these guys. Honestly, I do. I'm not even going to mention Rock and Trey and all those guys. Just from a defensive standpoint, Springville is going to have really, really tough sledding in this game.
I'm just glad the game's at Oxford because if it was Springville, it's probably a one-touchdown game. But not that I'm insinuating anything. So just saying.
I got you, brother. We read you loud and clear. But I will
The
be.
atmosphere's good.
Yeah, I will be seeing Coach Etheridge probably this Wednesday. I think Thursday we got a special to go to up in Fife, Alabama. But that being said, we're going to shut this one down and go Big O and moving on to our next. All right, we are in with the Southside Panthers now. One of my favorite segments each week. Every Southside guy we've had on this year has been an adventure. You guys are coming off a tough loss at Fort Payne, 27-28. A game you went for 2 and a win, which I do respect. A great game. But before we get to dive into that game, I'll let you guys introduce yourself, starting right here. Name and position.
My name is Smiley Jones. I play corner.
All right.
Damon Hitchcock, I play corner. Taylor Carr, corner, wide receiver.
We got some DBs in here. DBs usually got the most attitude of anybody. See if we can hold the suit on that.
Two was that smile.
Yeah, and you had a pick.
Big smile.
You had a pick last week, right?
Yes, sir.
That's right. I remember Buddy and I actually made the trip up there coming into that game. Talk about y'all's mindset heading into that game. You guys actually executed, I thought, very well. Honestly, you were going for 2 and a win. I honestly thought y'all was going to win that game because y'all had all the momentum. But going into that game, talk about your mindset and execution.
Going into the game, it was just, go in there, win the game. We trying to get in the playoffs. We got to go do what we got to do, win the game. But, it didn't turn out the way it came. So, we got to shake back this week, go beat Scottsboro.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Same question.
Have a good mindset going into the game, be positive, execute your job, just to where you can play, like, everybody play your job and you got to worry about what everybody else is doing and execute your own.
No doubt.
Just maintain that big old running back, but, just do your
Love.
job.
Yeah.
God, his humongous.
Now, several times, though, y'all got him before he got going.
Our defensive line was doing an amazing job, and our whole defense was doing a great job.
Credit to the defensive line. They really
But
played a good
just
game.
had to stay on our job and focus.
Now, y'all, I was going to say, for the most part, y'all held him in check. He had that one huge run, and he had a couple other intermediate runs, but he wasn't just like driving y'all up and down the field. Really, I thought y'all had several key stops, and actually went back and moved the ball. But let's go back. I got something to ask y'all. This is a fun question. Talk about Coach Scoop. We'll start right here. What's Coach Scoop meant for you and your life, and how's he enhanced you as a football player?
He's a great guy. He encourages me every time. He makes me want to get out there and hit somebody.
He
brings
brings
the energy out to the football field. Love Coach Scoop.
Oh no, he's a dude, man. I love that guy.
He just brings good enthusiasm to the team. He really gets us going in the groups that we're in, and he's a big impact with us, keeping our mind straight and make sure we're doing our job when we need to be done.
No doubt.
I haven't known him that long, as long as they have, but since I've been there, he's been a good defensive coach.
Yeah.
He a great guy. He puts us in the right position, to do our thing and win the game. I just like Coach Scoop. He a good coach.
For a position coach, he's about as good as you're gonna get. I love when even the offensive guys we have on here say they can catch some of the shrapnel when he goes off on everybody.
Yeah.
But weight room wise, though, he works out just as hard in the weight room.
Oh yeah, most
Because
definitely.
I know I've stopped by there several times at 1 o'clock. Just stop in the back door there. He's getting all over you guys.
I ain't no skipping no rail with Coach Scoop.
Nah, you better get depth on your squats and all that, no doubt. Have you guys got to see anything on Scottsboro yet?
Just they like to run the option.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Heard
They
the
love the option.
Assignment. Yeah.
Discipline football,
Yeah. So y'all, I know y'all haven't put in your game plan yet for them or not?
No, we put in a couple.
We kind of went over it today.
Yeah, we
Just see what we could do against them.
Gotcha. That's gonna be a huge pivotal game. That's one that you guys have to have right there.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a big game.
Which we talked earlier this year. I mean, Coach Nelson inherits a 2-18 and 5A, and going into last week he was sitting at 5-2 and 6A. I thought, that guy's. I mean, what's Coach Nelson meant for you guys individually? Since you know him, start back over here.
One of the best coaches I don't play for high school football. I mean, he knows what he's talking about. Good coach.
He's the type of guy's gonna have you just about every game.
Oh yeah, he
brings the energy to the team.
A lot
Every
of
time
game,
step
most
on the
definitely
field.
before the game.
Oh yeah,
I
heard about some of his speeches.
He gets that pre-game
Best speech,
speech,
too.
you just want to run through a wall.
That's one of the best guys' best speeches ever. I think he got Nick Saban and be on speeches.
That's good. I remember hearing his speech. They was telling us about his speech when you had your season opener this year. We played Lincoln, and he was like, "Hey, we're gonna go dominate.
Yeah.
We're not going to win. No, we're gonna go dominate."
I think it's almost a blessing.
Oh
That
yeah.
Chance Moon graduated.
Yeah.
Because had Chance Moon heard some of that,
I'm trying to
y'all have to hold him back.
No doubt.
I put the odds at 1 to 20 that at some point in the season Chance Moon would run out on the field and headbutt somebody.
Yeah, he was the truth. Before we let you guys get out of here, we'll start back down here. How do you hope to close this season out? I know obviously one game at a time, but just moving forward, since you guys obviously want to go to the playoffs and make a run, but how do you like to close this season out?
Go 2-0, but focus one game at a time. Just focus on our job and be satisfied.
I agree.
Yeah, go 2-0, finish off the season strong. So we got a great group of seniors above us. So we really just want to play for them and get it.
And none of you guys are seniors, right?
No, sir.
There we go. Same question to you.
Yeah, just go 2-0. Finish season strong, like they said. Just play our hearts out.
All right, guys.
Coach doesn't know how to talk.
Yeah.
Company talk.
Company talk. Hey guys, appreciate you having you guys on. We're gonna have you guys on anytime. Obviously, gonna be welcome back to the end of the year banquet we have, and make sure you guys get your shirts. If you need anything to eat on the way out, it's yours. And appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best.
All right, guys, moving on to our next game. We've got the Gadsden City Titans coming off a very tough loss against a very, very talented Thompson team. Thompson's got D1 prospects from the 10th grade up. This game was, me personally, I had a lot of I was very optimistic about this game and was really wanting to see the guys come out and perform. And they did. I will say this, the defense, those 48 points that Thompson got, they earned every point, every yard that they got. Gadsden City's defense made them, they didn't give up any big plays is what I'm saying. And they made them, they made Thompson earn those yards. They didn't come out easy. But tough game for those guys this week. Another tough regional loss, but those guys never gave up.
Yeah, I was kind of keeping up with that game from afar, and they just from what I was able to listen to and on the broadcast, everything they were playing hard, and it's just part of this process of building.
Mm-hmm.
It's growing pains. Sometimes that's going to happen, and I mean, and let's face it, Thompson hasn't beaten. I mean, Gadsden City's not the only team that Thompson has beaten that bad.
Right.
I mean, but you look at their schedule. So, and I don't want to say there's no shame in losing to Gadsden City because I know the coaching staff doesn't want to hear that. And I've been in your situation before where optimistic about my team coming out with a victory when everybody's thinking it's not going to happen, and because football's a game you never know, the ball bounces funny ways. So it just unfortunately didn't do that last week.
Very true. And this week the road is not getting easier. We got the Gadsden City travels to Hewitt-Trussville this week, which is another top 4 team in Class 7A. And if I'm not mistaken, they may not be nationally ranked now, but they were at one point nationally ranked. Coming into the season, thing with Hewitt-Trussville and Gadsden City, you never know which way that game is going to go with those two. And I've witnessed several of these games where you go into that game, Gadsden City should win that game easily, and Hewitt-Trussville comes out and wins, and vice versa. Hewitt-Trussville's supposed to win, and then Gadsden City goes in there and upsets those guys. And it usually happens in Trussville.
Yeah, I can understand most definitely, and it's funny how this, and there's a reason why this. I know some people refer to this rivalry as the Battle of I-59.
Yeah.
Because it's just a 40-minute shot up that way, and I think it's a game that Gadsden City can win.
Yeah.
Because I've kept it with Hewitt-Trussville because sometimes they're on the Friday night football broadcast, and I've watched them a few times, and they had I can't remember if they won or lost to Huffman. It's 3-0.
They beat Huffman.
Okay.
The situation with that, both teams battled all night, and Huffman went for it on 4th and 1 on the 1 yard line. And Hewitt-Trussville stopped them. Hewitt got the ball back on the 1 yard line. Armani Goodwin, first play, took off like 74 yards, and that set up the game-winning field goal. So Hewitt-Trussville, they're a vulnerable team. They can be beat. They've had some very close calls against some teams they should have easily beat, and they've lucked up and won those games.
And if I'm not mistaken, like I said, I watched it. I think they struggled with Vestavia Heels.
They did. They struggled with Vestavia.
And not taking anything away because that's who Gadsden City's next opponent is.
Right. We do end with Vestavia to end the season.
That's 7A Region 3 Life right there.
It's 7A Region 3 Life. And like Coach Smith said on the coaches show a couple of weeks ago, he said, he don't believe in playing cupcakes. He said, our region's tough. He said, I'm not going to go schedule a cupcake to fill out our non-region schedule. He said, because the only way we can get better is if we play these tough games. And he said, they're going to continue doing it. And I like that. I
agree.
I like that. And what's the saying? Iron sharpens iron. And eventually they're going to win one of those. They're going to win one of these games. And when they do, it's going to be a program changer.
Well, it's coming. And last year Gadsden City went 1-9.
1-9, yeah.
In a weaker region. They're in a stronger region this year, and they've got 3 wins already.
Yeah.
Now, and I think, in just my opinion, if they're fortunate enough to beat Hewitt-Trussville and Vestavia, that would put them at 5-5. And I don't know what would put that in postseason wise, but Coach Smith ought to get Coach of the Year for doing that. He ought to get Coach of the Year or consideration for it. Not just he's already tripled their win total from last year in a tougher region.
Well, one thing you want to see is improvement from year to year, and we're seeing that.
Yeah,
definitely seeing that. And I think next year with the guys they've got coming up, talking to the middle school coaches and talking to some of these other coaches, it's definitely getting better because the JV team, they've already beat Oxford's JV twice, and if you've seen Oxford's JV, they look like a varsity level team. They've beat those guys twice. This JV team has beat Hoover this year, and they're playing Thompson tonight. So the future is bright at Gadsden City. The fact that their JV team, they're playing with these top teams JV program, it only means that, hey, when they're on varsity, that they're going to play with these guys and they're going to battle with them going forward. So if everybody's just buying in and don't give up on the guys, man, the future's going to be bright going forward.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, there's and of course they're on the road at Hewitt-Trussville, and then the last home game is in 2 weeks against Vestavia, and hopefully the fans can come out. Hopefully they can make a good trip down there Thursday or Friday night to I-59.
Definitely.
That's an amazing stadium down there.
Yeah, I haven't been to that stadium yet, but there was a good amount of fans at the Thompson game. It was looking kind of iffy there at the beginning, but people finally came on in, and I turned around, I looked, and I was like, okay, this is a good crowd considering COVID. And normally Gadsden City late season games, they don't feel the stands up, but you can't feel the stands up this year. But it was your normal crowd for this COVID season, so that was really good. And again, like you said, I hope they do that for these last 2 games. I hope they come out and support these guys.
Yeah, I agree. And I just 2020, this COVID has just messed up everything. And I know that we've got certain protocols we've got to follow, but it's just I just hope that we can finish the last 2 or 3 weeks of regular season and finish on strong and have some good crowds.
Yeah.
Support these kids. So.
Yeah. All right, guys. We got anything else?
Well, first, I just want to appreciate Average Joe's and all you guys having me on the show. Although y'all are not obligated to, and I know this pretty face, I might not be a good look for certain football shows. But like I said, I just appreciate you guys having me on there, and just help you guys any way I can.
All right. Got anything else? All right. All right. We're gonna wrap this up, guys, and move on to our next.